Not if you're Bashar Assad or his family, I guess. The dictator of Syria has fled the country, apparently. Not to anyone's surprise, given what's been happening, if you've been keeping an eye on it. So apparently Syria has seen its tyrannical dictatorship of many decades under the Assad family regime fall. Who do they fall to? They fell to a group called HTS. That's their acronym. It's a long Arabic name. Basically, they're a slightly mollified version of ISIS, or the Islamic State, right? Basically, they're terrorists. Now, question is, are they better or worse for the people of Syria? Hey, are they better or worse for the people of Syria than the Assad regime? To which the answer is, of course, only time will tell. But if you ask me, what is worse for a people? An ossified, secular, tyrannical regime that has killed more than 500,000, almost 1 million in total, probably more, of its own people over the years and decades, versus a hot under the collar group of Islamic extremists who want to turn the entire Middle East into a Muslim caliphate and then conquer the rest of the world. While the new yahoos coming into power may seem like a bit more of a joke right now and a bit less of a threat at the moment, they're certainly no less of a threat in the long term. So this is not exactly a great day for peace and prosperity in the Middle East. Right? This is like, we're picking two bad sides of a bad apple. Neither one is good. They're both rotten. You have to throw the whole apple out and start again. It's just, if you're hoping that Syria will somehow wake up and have a beautiful, bright, blessed day because Assad is gone, I'm sorry, that's just not reality, right? Like, there's a reason that the Assad family has been in power for as long as it has, and it's not a good reason. They were supported by the Russians. Why were they supported by the Russians? Supported by the Russians because they were holding out against the Islamists and the other people who wanted to take over. And the Hezbollah, who would come from time to time to help Assad do his dirty work, they are respondents to Iran, obviously. And seeing that Iran is essentially busy at the moment, right? They're not capable right now of helping very much because they're distracted with what's going on with Israel and the Hamas and the Houthis and the Hezbollah and the ISIS in Iraq and other groups in Lebanon who've also been shooting at Israel, right? So Iran is very busy as the head of the octopus, causing disruption in the Middle East. And this is the fruit of their labor. And people who see this as, oh, this is great, now the Arabs are rising up against their dictators, and now soon the people in Iran will do the same. What? Who do you think is supporting these Islamic extremists in Syria? Who? But you don't think they're getting any support even from groups that they say they have no connection to. They officially were disconnected themselves from Al Qaeda or all those other groups because they didn't want to be. They thought it was bad for the optics. Okay, yeah, their leader guy, a man who has the last name Golani, which is funny because that's a very Hebrew word in Israel. It's a name of one of the parts of the army, is the Golani Brigade, and they have a headquarters up in the Golan area. So anyway, the fact that Syria's regime is changing from an old Syrian evil dictator regime that we knew and that we saw committing horrible atrocities, killing over 500,000 of their own people during the quote-unquote Arab Spring back in like 2011 or whatever it was, 2012. The fact that that dictatorship is out, yeah, that's great. But let's not kid ourselves and pretend like this new incoming group is somehow going to fix all the problems and that there's going to be peace in the Middle East and peace in Syria. But that's not happening. Okay, the group coming in is extremely violent. They call themselves, I mean, they are Islamists, right? Like, they don't shy away from that label at all. Call them terrorists, they might say, well, those are things we did long ago. Now we've changed our position. Judge us by our actions. Well, their actions have been such that the leader of their group, whether he was personally involved in pulling a trigger or not is irrelevant. The leader of their group has a $10 million reward or bounty on his head by the American FBI or whoever, the terrorist organization, the counter-terrorist organization, the FBI. Has like a $10 million reward out on his head. Right? That's not the kind of thing they just do for anybody. Oh, you lost your phone. Oh, $10 million reward. No. Oh, you accidentally, manslaughtered. No. You commit acts of terrorism, targeting innocent civilians for the purpose of terrorizing them, meaning to cause terror in their mind and to physically harm and or kill innocent civilians for political purpose. That is terrorism. It's not a very complicated definition. Even a child understands it. But there's no legal definition of terrorism in the whatever court. Doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm just saying, look, hey, who knows? Maybe they'll wake up after realizing they've overthrown the Assad regime and they'll be like, oh, great, now's our chance to show the world that an Islamist country can be peaceful and we can make peace with the world. And we can show the world we are a way of peace instead of this book we've been reading and memorizing for the last 1,400 years and that we have personally taken and perverted into our own special way so that we can, continue this insane notion of being a warrior people who are going to conquer the earth and spread, Islam and dominate the earth and make everyone who's not a Muslim either dead or a slave to us. But that's the mentality that they have to overcome, because that's literally what they believe, right? You think the Yazidis had it bad in Iraq? Man, if these guys take control of all of Syria, the minorities in Syria are going to suffer tremendously. Again, I'm not saying the Assad regime was any better. They were horrible. I'm glad to see Bashar Assad out of power. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this new group that's taken over is any better, right? And they may very well be worse. And they may very well be more extreme, right? I know that sounds crazy. Assad was a mass murdering butcher, and he does not deserve to be in power. And, you know, I think the end of him should have been a lot like the end of a lot of other dictators, but apparently he managed to flee. Okay, so he fled, which is also normal for dictators, right? But yeah, it's definitely not like all sunshine and lollipops, right? You know, yeah, it's great that there's a change, but when that change is not necessarily better than the previous situation, then all you have is a whole bunch of bloodshed that happened during the fighting, and then it's like meet the new boss, same as the old boss. You know, there's no difference. Yeah, okay, so one of them prays 5 times a day, the other one didn't. That's not a significant difference, you know. If anything, the relations that Syria managed to maintain during the Assad regime will very much now be tested. You know, how will the diplomatic relations be with Russia, with France, with America, with everybody, right? All the different countries where Syria had ambassadors and diplomats. How will all of those relationships be tested now? And what will the result be? You know, that's the problem with dictatorships, right? This is why dictatorships are not good. No bueno, because when you have a change of regime, it causes a tremendous amount of political volatility. And I'm all for trading volatility, as you know. But political volatility affects people's real day-to-day lives in a way that, like, trading things on markets doesn't, you know, yeah, it affects your life, but it's not the same, right? When you have massive geopolitical upheaval, like a whole country being overthrown by some rebels, that affects a lot more than just a market or 2 or 10 or 100, right? And affects not just the lives of the millions of people in the country, but the lives of any of their expats who are outside the country, obviously. It affects the lives of the people in the countries that have close relations with them, right? And so on and so forth. It's a waterfall effect, and it's huge. It's not a one and done situation, you know? So again, is it worth holding out an olive branch in the hopes that something better might come from the change? You know, yeah, in theory, it is. But, you know, in practical terms, you have to not kid yourself and not think that, oh, now that there's this change, everything's fine. Like, it's not like that. Now that there's this change, and, you know, it's been many decades in the making. And I'm glad to see the old Assad regime get the boot. But that does not mean I'm glad to see them be replaced by an Islamic extremist group who may be just as crazy or crazier than Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or anybody like that, right? So now Israel has to defend itself against that group instead of the old Assad regime, or, you know, whatever remnants may exist from that regime, plus this group as well as other groups. So happy times in the Middle East, my friends. Happy times. I bid you all a peaceful day. And I hope it is a peaceful day for you, seriously. And if you're trading, well, happy trading. But if you're observing the geopolitical changes in the world, then I hope you do that, and that you manage to enjoy the view safely from wherever you are in peace and quiet. Okay, that's going to do it for now, folks. Talk to you later. Cheers.